10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Chapter systems are offline.
Welcome to the Banter Club. Join myself, Mark, along with TY, Jackie, and Mahal as we talk all things sport. We will definitely trash your team, and if you don't like it, we'll definitely tell you your favorite footballer is a tax evader. Join us every week on the Banter Club.
Are we really doing this?
Of course, we are, definitely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to it. It is the Banter Club with myself, the anchor, TY, aka Abuti Broadway. As per usual, I'm not rolling alone. It is episode 22. Can you believe it's been 22 episodes? Wow. Time does fly. But I'm not rolling alone like I previously said. I'm joined by Mahal. Mahal, how you doing, man?
I'm well, TY, how are you?
I'm amazing. I'm also joined by Una Monate Brak.
Bona. Monati, actually, li rakisa thoma, but ke monate.
Jackie, how you doing, man?
Manad Braga, wena.
No, really, we let the CBD from Kaside I once.
Sounds late.
All right, and we've got an amazing guest for you today. This man specializes in what I like to believe the business in sports. He goes by the name of Ngobile Ndlovu. Ngobile, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you doing?
Absolutely amazing, man. Absolutely amazing. Great to have you here. I'm looking forward to this chat. Seems like it's going to be one hectic one.
Yeah, man. I hope it's not too hectic.
No, I hope so too. So here on the podcast, I love to believe we predominantly deal with football. So let's start about the business in football. How clubs make their money, how sponsorship works in football as well. Let's get started off there.
Well, football clubs, if we're talking football clubs' revenue mostly comes from their one primary asset, which is the players, right?
Okay.
That's their product, is the players, and the players earn or attract revenue from people wanting to watch players play. So their biggest source of revenue for clubs or for federations is broadcasters. Broadcasters buy the rights to show players playing on a football pitch. Then the broadcasters would sell the rights to individual, like Super Sport and so on. All sorts of different broadcasters around the world would then pay to have that stream and show it in their country, and they would charge people to watch the sport. On top of that, you then also have sponsors who would then pay to have their name attached to the front of a jersey, or in France, they could have their name on the whole jersey. It ends up looking like a cycling kit. But generally that's and then on top of that, then there's other sponsors as well who could, for instance, in England, Manchester United has like 50 something sponsors. You could have a drinks sponsor or a car sponsor or there's all sorts of different sponsors. That's the business of football in terms of the club. And then on the side, there's the business of football in terms of the players, because players can't manage their own finances a lot of the time and they're too busy playing football, so they would need an agent. Raiola, for instance, is the super agent. So he's another component. You then also get lawyers and so on and so on. There's all sorts of industries that are supported by football, and it's the biggest sport in the world. It's the most supported sport in the world. And it's a giant in terms of finances. But yeah, in a nutshell, for laymen, that's basically the business of football.
Now, let's bring it to South Africa real quick. Does
Yeah.
does it make sense to own a football team in South Africa? Is it really something that's going to make revenue for you? I mean, I can understand the Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates, maybe a Sundowns, they're going to make revenue. But for a regular businessman, is it a wise idea, or is it, a good idea to invest in a football team in this country?
The answer, no. Plain and easy, simple answer. The answer is no. I had one of my first podcast discussion was with the chairman of a football team, David Mokhashwa, and I asked him this very same question. And I said, why are you in football? Because generally you're losing money hand over fist. He said, well, I did this because I have a passion for it, but at some point I also want to make some money. It is possible if you're in the current state of South African football, it's not possible to make money because we don't run football like a business in this country. For instance, if you look at the Royal AM saga and Sekhukhune United, the thing that went to court, the PSL fixtures are now out, but the PSL or the league hasn't announced a position on the whole issue. So they haven't said, listen, the court has decided. So based on the decision of the court, we have now ruled that these two teams will come up, these two teams will go down, and therefore these are the fixtures. They've just kept quiet. Why? I don't know. It's unnecessary. It creates a lot of confusion, but they seem to like to have egg on their faces, so they continue that way. If we ran football like a business in this country where we employed a director of football, a director of communications who is an actual graduate and not someone who just happened to have, done a social media course and now all of a sudden he's the digital marketing manager. You have to have people. There's a distinction between rugby and cricket and football in this country. Everyone who goes into rugby, you know that those guys probably went to school, they studied for what they're doing, and they're professionals. In football in South Africa, we have the opposite approach. And as a result, sponsors don't want to touch football with a 10-foot pole. So no, it's not financially viable because we don't run football professionally. If we did, football is the biggest sport in the country. There's no reason why sponsors wouldn't want to come in and put their money there. They just don't trust the product.
What do you think?
It's a tricky one.
What do I think we should adopt in terms of to make it valuable? Should we adopt the same system as the MLS in the US, or should we continue with the one we have and just re-adopt it, or maybe look towards the British one, which is solely based on broadcasting mostly?
No, there's no problem with our system and our business model. Our business model isn't the problem. Our problem is the people running the business and the business owners. Let me give you an example, right? South Africa in 2019, the PSL had revenue of 1 billion rand, right? And before then it was in the 800,000. So it's increasing. So the problem isn't the fact that the league makes money. The fact that Keegan Dolly can come back from France and sign a contract at Chiefs because he's earning a good salary proves the fact that the business model is sound. The problem comes in that you have players, for instance, who are driven to specific clubs and told that you're going to sign this contract. They don't even want to go to the club. They weren't even told. They were told that they have to sign the contract. They don't know what's happening. You have situations where Bruce Vuma at Chiefs, for instance, was earning 5,000 rand, but he's a first team player. You have situations where a disciplinary issue will happen with a club and it takes 6 months to fix. The one thing that we can do to fix the football in the country is get professionals in to do it, run it like a company, and say, listen, you have 32 teams between Division 1 and Division 2. This is a set amount of money. that you must have to buy a football club. You must pass a test to buy a football club so that we don't have the situation of just random Joes coming in, buying a football club. Nobody knows where they get their money from. And then when money dries up, it's a problem. Also, I would also get rid of this whole status sales issue. It erodes the history of football. It erodes the trust. Fans get disenchanted in the fact that you support a team one day, 5 years down the line, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And then lastly, I would make sure that the grassroots are taken care of. We don't have, if you go to Europe, you get La Masia. Kids are playing at La Masia from 6 years old, right? Where do you have a nationwide league for 6-year-olds in this country? It doesn't exist, you know. It used to exist when I was playing back in the day when I was at school, when we were winning the Danone Nations Cup and so on and so on. But these guys got rid of it. I don't know why. So, yeah, those are the things that I would do. I don't think that the business model is a problem, although I would also hope that these guys would actually want to make a profit from football. But I mean, I've done the finances and they never really make money. And it's also because they siphon the money. Well, actually, this can't be proven, so let's leave it out. But basically, that's what I would suggest as a way to fix it.
You're allowed to say allegedly and then make the statement.
Yes, allegedly they siphon the money between themselves, and there's shareholders of clubs who are also chairmen of other clubs, and they protect each other. That's why allegedly you have people who can never be, you know, who can never lose their clubs, or whose clubs can never be relegated, or
Yeah, you telling the truth there. I allegedly agree with you.
Yeah.
Let me put it that way. Out of curiosity, which team do you support in the PSL?
I support Pirates. The land of Pirates.
Good man. It's Kamakia Pula. Good man.
Ski. TY.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
No, but I wanted to ask you another question. Do you think laws like the Sports Act and Regulation Act are effective? Because you did mention the fact that it seems as if there are laws in place. It's more of a question of implementation. Hence, you're saying that they should remove those administrators with fresh minds who are willing to implement those policies.
Yeah. Well, the Sports and Administration Act only governs sport, to say that within your sport you have to have a governing body and so on and so on. But they don't change anything in terms of how the sport is actually run itself. Natim Tetwa, for example, him wanting to get involved in cricket is because the cricket administrators were now starting to go against the codes of the sport. But Natim Tetwa can't get involved in football because the football administrators haven't gone against the code itself. So the Sport Administration Act is tied. It has its hands tied by the fact that it only governs specific things, in that you have to have a governing body, you have to have a quorum, there has to be a chairman, and so on and so on. But it doesn't actually say anything about the league must run itself in this particular manner. Players must only cost a certain amount of money, as it does in Spain, by the way. In Spain, La Liga can tell Barcelona, listen, you're not allowed to spend more than so much money. In South Africa, that doesn't exist because it's not within the laws of the league and the country itself. So it's going to be difficult for us to say the laws of the country are such and such, and therefore you must change. Because these guys are still acting within the confines of the law. So therefore, there's not much more that we can do. But what we could possibly do is have you could have a fan action type of situation that says, no, guys, we basically fund your product for you. If we don't watch games, if we don't buy tickets, if we don't go to stadiums, which, I mean, most people don't really go to stadiums anyway, then you guys will die. Only then will people change, and it's the same as politics. Unless you start seeing people on the ground our government doesn't really act. It's the same as the same situation follows in sport, in football in this country. It's only under crisis that people act for good. The rest of the time they're like, oh, well, these guys aren't doing anything, so we're not going to change. And because we're happy to continue to benefit, then there's no reason why we should change. And I don't think that it's going to change anyway until something drastic happens.
Yeah. Mahal?
Yeah. Could you say that the business model within the sporting fraternity is changing? And I would like to give you two scenarios here. Looking at what transpired within the Euro 2020, where you see Cristiano Ronaldo during an interview having to remove some Coca-Cola bottles, and then there was sort of an issue to say, did Coke lose money on that incident, or did they gain more money or more profit? And then another thing, another example I would use is the Naomi Osaka example, where she had to withdraw from the, I think if it was not the Wimbledon, I think it's...
it was Wimbledon and the French Open.
Yeah. That she won't do any interviews, where now I think they had a problem to say that, okay, we need her there, we need her being interviewed by media. So could you say that this whole business model is changing, and are we adapting into that change?
Well, I would say yes. A typical example is the Super League. The Super League, I put out a thread on Twitter saying that I understand why they're doing it. And actually, apart from the exclusivity clause where they only wanted certain teams in it, I actually supported it. Because let's be honest, sport doesn't happen without money. And money comes from broadcasters and sponsors. That's where the bulk of the money comes from. So the Cristiano Ronaldo example, I don't think it's such a big deal that Cristiano Ronaldo removed the bottles, and the whole thing about the stock price of Coca-Cola went down. It was a lie. That was a fabrication. Because I mean, if that logic follows, then Heineken's stock price would have gone down when Paul Pogba removed the Heineken bottles from the table at this, during the France press conference.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that football and global sport is changing for sure. Money drives sport. The astronomical figures that we see can't pay for themselves. And football doesn't have enough money on its own if you take the broadcasters away. And let's be honest, the broadcasters have been there for a long time, right? But now you're now starting to see institutional investors, JP Morgan and Chase, huge money hedge funds coming into football. The Sharks is a prime example. The Sharks rugby team is now probably the second richest team in the country, because, well, Johan Rupert is still richer than the guys who put their money into the Sharks, and he owns the Bulls along with Motsepe, so they're still the richest team in the country. But the institutional investors that have gone into the Sharks have made them able to compete, able to buy the likes of Siya Kolisi. And I can tell you now that the Sharks will be competing with the Bulls in terms of buying European players and bringing them back home because they've got the money now. And so let me go back to your question. Is the business model of sport changing? Yes. The money that's in sport now demands a profit. And with that demand of a profit, players and athletes have to play to appease the sponsors and the people who are putting the money in. So therefore, you're going to get situations where people are going to have to say, well, I'm not for that. And sponsors will say, okay, fine, then drop that player. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out, because these guys put their money in, they want something out, and they're not putting their money in for fun. But also at the same time, careers of sportsmen and sportswomen are quite short, 10 to 15 years, maybe 20 if you're Gigi Buffon,
Yeah. If you're from Pigegan, it's 20 years. I feel
Yeah, and the money that they're earning for me is justified because honestly speaking, if you get an injury now, then you have to start your career from scratch. You've spent 15, 20 years of your life through primary school and high school, and maybe the early years of your adulthood honing your skill. You break your leg today, your career's finished. You have to start from scratch. It's high risk and it's a very high risk industry, and I think that the finances are deserved, but I think in some places they're inflated, like Barcelona, for instance. You can't be paying Antoine Griezmann 800,000 pounds a week. It's ridiculous. Lionel Messi, 1.2 million a week. I mean, come on. And then where does the money go to in terms of the lower leagues? So sports has to also find a way to spread the money, but the money is necessary for sport to continue to grow and to evolve. So it's a tricky situation, but yes, the short answer to your question is yes. The business model of sport is changing.
All right, so let's quickly move it through to the Olympics right about now. Mahal, hey, I think you're the one person that is perfect to update us on what's going on there.
Well, I think it's quite interesting, especially looking at what's happening for Team USA. Firstly, I think they had high expectations, but they're not doing that really well. But I mean, let's bring it home. What's happening right now? We have, I think, three medals, if I'm correct, or two? Can't remember.
Two.
Yeah. Okay. I'm already counting the next one. Yeah, Titana. So I'm hoping that she'll take the 200 meters. But quite disappointed with Chad Leclerc. Unfortunately, he lost when it comes to the 100 meters. But we not seems to be doing quite well. But I think a lot of people are waiting for the track and field. So come weekend, the likes of Akani Simbini will be they're hoping that maybe we might get some medals here and there.
Yeah. Well, do you think that the Olympics are a success or are they a flop? Because I'm seeing athletes drop out because of mental health issues. I'm seeing athletes drop out because of COVID. The medals are not going the way they're supposed to. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, if we're talking, so for me, my view on the Olympics is twofold: financial and actual or financial and physical in the actual playing or the actual hosting of the Olympics. So I'll answer your question from the physical playing side, because that was your question. But for one, it was always going to be difficult. This is a COVID year, right? There's never been an Olympics that's been hosted in such an environment. So people dropping out and so on was to be expected, because we have a global pandemic, which we've never seen before. Even if you get a vaccine, you can still get reinfected. And this is why it doesn't make sense to me why people are surprised that athletes are catching COVID or getting COVID at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Almost every single one of the athletes that's going to the Olympics is vaccinated, by the way. But the issue is that you can still catch COVID after you've been vaccinated. So let's just get rid of that notion that athletes at the Olympics shouldn't be catching COVID because they're vaccinated. You can still catch it after vaccination. So it was to be expected that would be the case. Therefore, it was also to be expected that some star athletes would drop out of the Olympics because of COVID, which we've seen. Sam Kendrick today dropped out. He's the pole vault, double world champion in the pole vault. That also resulted in the whole Australia athletics team going into isolation. There's a number of athletes who didn't go to the Olympics because of COVID fears. There's a number of athletes who've dropped out of the Olympics because either they got there and the Olympics is a difficult place to be because you're isolated from people already on its own. But previously you had crowds. Now you're in a bio bubble. athletes have been in bio bubbles for 18 months. So mental health is a problem because when you're on your own, you must remember that a bio bubble doesn't mean that you're allowed to chill with other people. You are in your room, right? You eat with your team. After that, you go to your room. You basically isolate. Because if there's a breakout, they want to make sure that as few people are in contact with each other as possible. So the loneliness factor goes up. Anxiety factor goes up. And then on top of that, athletes are not able to train as well as they would have. You know, you can't just take a walk outside and de-stress. You're not allowed to do that. So I'm not overly surprised. And I mean, I've done a series over the Olympics for maybe the past 2 months, looking at the money, the mental side, and so on and so on. I do think, by the way, that we're going to see records in the athletics when the real athletics or the real Olympics get going tomorrow. Because the numbers that we've seen prior to the Olympics starting have been good. I mean, there's been so many records broken already. Tatiana Schoenmaker's broken 2 Olympic records already.
Yeah.
You know, there's been a lot of records broken in the swimming, and I expect that there's going to be records broken in athletics as well. Because athletes have had time to rest. That's another thing that the Olympics that COVID has done, is it's forced people into their houses, and it's forced them to rest. And with athletes who are always competing, rest is at a premium. But when you're forced to rest for a long period of time and your body gets to recover and you get to recover from injuries, athletes come back better. But also they come back mentally strained. So it's a two-pronged, it's a difficult one to tell.
Double-edged sword, yeah.
The double-edged sword, yeah, there we go. There's the English. My data bundles were running out.
Well, now, what are your thoughts on the Olympics, man? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Like Noile said, the real Olympics starts over the weekend. It's all swimmer, could be me, I'm far away from it. But like you said, it will be really exciting. I like the fact that you mentioned that the benefit of rest in terms of athletes, what it does to their bodies. It really helps rejuvenate them. And yes, I really hope I'll see some records being broken, and more especially by South Africans, because traditionally South Africans, we do well in the pools, but this time around, I guess we'll have to shift our hopes to the track and field. And
Can I just say something about that one as well? Prior to the Olympics, SASCOC put themselves. They said that they're expecting 13 medals this year. I can tell you now that we're not going to get more than 5. If my predictions are correct.
Really, I don't like your energy.
5.
I don't like that energy. Always next season. That energy.
You know, but I really hope that Novile is making an application to the IOC of introducing Umrawaraba and all those nice games.
Okati,
you see, so we can at least get more medals, more than 13. I mean, for starters, China is probably in double figures already, if not triple figures, in terms of medals. So it goes back to what we've been saying in the Banter Club in previous episodes, that as a country, we need to really invest in our communities and groom our young kids to actually grow into world athletes. Yes, I was very excited to hear that we have a skateboarder who unfortunately had to withdraw from Kimberley. She's only 15 or 16 year old. I was really excited that someone from a small town like Kimberley, where there's only 2 streets, is going to the Olympics. So if our government comes into play and invest in our communities, in future Olympics, we might have to put our hopes into maybe 25 and 35 medals.
I think for me, what bothers me the most, I was listening to an interview where the head of, I forgot the sporting code. I like this one here where, it's not ballerina, maybe Tangman, the sporting code, but he's like the gymnastics, yes. the chairman of the gymnastics board in South Africa, and they asked him, "Do you think next Olympics we're going to pick up medals?" And he blankly said, "No." I'm like, but where's the hope? We've got 2 athletes that were there. I don't think they did that good, but can't we now come back, go back to the drawing board and see how we can get medals? I think the energy we are projecting already right now, it's so negative that even the athletes, wherever they are, it's like, he doesn't believe in us, so why am I even trying to do this one?
TY.
But it's hard.
Another thing you should remember, ne? A lot of these sporting codes maybe like for a period of 4 to 5 years of preparation. Right now, because of COVID-19, remember, it's supposed to be Tokyo 2020, but it's happening in 2021. So we have the likes of Blitzbokke, which are under pressure to say that, okay, how do we prepare ourselves for the next Olympics, which will be in the next 3 years, not 4 years. And for any team which hasn't prepared themselves that moment, I think they're in big trouble to say that, okay, we'll prepare after the Olympics, because, I mean, you have only 3 years to prepare yourself or to find players or athletes to participate.
That's true, Wow. That's true that preparation really is key in terms of Olympics. But at the same time, I also concur with TY, because now I think we lack that arrogance in South African sports.
Yes.
Only the Springboks tend to have that arrogance in terms of their game. And when it comes to other sporting codes, look at how the under 23 men's football team played in the first game. We were very cautious from the lineup to the game. We were very cautious. Where is that arrogance? In the second game, we tend to bring that arrogance in, and we were attacking, but lapse of concentration actually took us back. So if we get to introduce that into our sports, maybe even if we start at a very young age, we tend to introduce that. I think it can take us far, because sports, as much as it's a physical game, it also plays through the mind. If the mind is not there, if the mind is not 3 steps ahead, you're going to take it further.
You've already lost. Before you even step on the pitch, you've already lost.
And again, Una, when it comes to preparation as well, these sporting coaches, they need money. And I would like Ngo to come through and yet say that we have the likes of USA, which will put in a lot of money towards their athletes, towards different sporting coaches, so that they can prepare themselves. I mean, we cannot expect under 23 to go and play the Olympics against Mexico, against France, whereas the last time they played against such teams was Norway. So I mean,
but understand that I think it was to the Olympics in 2000. Buffalo, I mean the under 23s, they beat the team that had a whole Ronaldinho in it, and they beat Brazil. So understand that the arrogance is what we need.
TY, can I answer this question, right?
The foundation was there. We didn't grow with that foundation from 2000.
Thank you.
Simply talk about this episode where we say that we don't have plans. Yes, you're talking about preparations of 3 years, 4 years, but do we actually have those plans, or is it something that we fantasize about?
Gents, in sport, right? Arrogance and confidence doesn't sprout out of nowhere. You have to set a foundation. You have to plant roots in a system that works, right? And then once you've planted the roots in a system that works, you have to water that seed and get to a point where every player knows what they're doing, right? They're capacitated to do what they're doing, in that they don't have to wake up tomorrow and ask or wonder, where are we playing? Who are we playing against? Do I have kit? Do I have this, that, or the other? Right? And then to build up the arrogance, you have to play at arrogance level, which is, I think it was Mohau who said something around that. You have to play at arrogance level. You're talking about the Olympics in 2000. Was it 2002?
It was
2000.
2000, yeah.
Right. For us to get to play, you must remember, we used to play against top level teams all the time. There was a time when Bafana Bafana played against Brazil, and Bebeto scored in the last minute. That was in the 90s. When last did we play a friendly against Brazil? We hardly ever played top tier nations. We played Chad, Mauritania, Cape Verde. You can't. The arrogance of your convictions doesn't just sprout overnight. You have to be playing against top tier teams. You have to capacitate the players all the time to say, no, we aren't going to settle for Mozambique as a friendly. We want to go and play against Portugal. We want to go and play against the top tier nations. And I think that's why David Nordone was cautious in the first game, because let's also remember that the fact that prior to him going to the Olympics, he lost, I think, 5 players, right? And then the team was in isolation because they had 2 COVID cases in the camp. So he went into that game not having prepared. They hadn't played. And then prior to them going to the Olympics, they were supposed to play 2 friendlies in the UAE, right? And those games got cancelled because of COVID, right? So they couldn't even play those games. So yes, I agree that you have to be arrogant, and I think the Springboks do it well. But the Springboks do it well because most of their players are based overseas. The coach is based overseas, right? And they play top tier opposition every week. So they don't care. It's like, you when I played you last week, but Tina, our boys are playing here, which is why I also blame some of the PSL sides for not wanting players to go overseas. These guys are so content in wanting their players to just stay that but we know that our level of football, for it to get better, we need players to be exposed. So it's either you start doing friendlies where South African teams go on pre-season tours in Europe or in Asia or whatever, then you'll start getting players exposed to higher levels, or you start allowing players to go. But you can't expect your level of football to increase if you're going to confine Umuntu to the local standard, and then say, no, when you get to play against international standard players, you must be arrogant. It's very difficult.
That's exactly proving my point, Tore. The arrogance should not start with the players. It should start up top. If we as a nation believe in them, then if SAFA believes in them, then what you're saying gets implemented automatically and we get that arrogance. But if we don't believe in our teams already, then it's like, what's the point of them playing against Brazil because we don't believe in them? But if the arrogance from the top going down,
SAFA believes in them.
We win.
Let's see if SAFA believes in them. If that's the litmus test, let's go and ask what SAFA is doing.
I use gymnastics as an example because I feel like this is not just a SAFA problem, it's across the board. It's South African sport in a nutshell. You know? That's why I use gymnastics as an example, because SAFA, it was going to be too easy. But I feel like we don't believe in our players.
And by the way, my criticism isn't only about football. I'm only talking football because it's the one. For instance, here's an example. SA Hockey beat Germany 3-2 today. This morning, right? Those guys did a crowdfunding campaign, right?
To get to the Olympics,
get to the Olympics. They had to raise money. They had to go and do funny shows all over the place. Some of them were selling socks and whatever on social media. They had to raise money for them to go to the Olympics, right? They played 3 games. The first game, they lost to Great Britain, right? The second game, they were leading against the Netherlands. They were leading 3-0, right? The third game, they beat Germany. Germany, who is ranked number 5 in the world, by the way. What happens if you just give those guys a little bit more money and say, guys, you've got a good program here. You're playing at a high level. Here's more money, right? And it's not the only federation. There's many other federations. You have athletes. Let me tell you now, I do research on sports all the time. You have athletes in this country who are working in mines, and they're supposed to be our top level athletes. Why are they not getting supported to say, no, you're not good. You're going to stop working in the mine. We'll give you a government stipend, right? You know, scientists get research grants. Why don't athletes get athlete grants to go and train, go live somewhere in Europe, go and train and come back? You know, most of our swimmers, the reason why our swimmers do so well is because these guys leave the country and they get bursaries in America. And when they come back, they world beaters. It's only Tatiana. Tatiana is the only one who actually still trains here. She trains at Tux. But I'm very sure if she wants to get her level higher, she's probably going to need to go. But well, she's already at a high level now. She's one of the very few. But that's also because Tux has a high performance center, which is also the high performance center for the entire country, which is why she's allowed to get to that high level, because she trains in the country's best facilities. The Springboks train at the Stellenbosch Academy of Sport. It's a high level facility. Who built that facility? Johan Rupert. So the government didn't build that. And the high performance center wasn't built by the government either. It was built by Tux. So let's be honest and say, you need to capacitate our sports, and all of those sports will not improve unless the funding is there to allow for athletes to wake up, go train, go home and sleep, rest, and go back in the next morning. An athlete can't wake up, go work in a call center for 9 hours, sitting in a chair, listening to some guy who's going to be telling him about a cell phone contract, and then come back and come back home, change, go train. The guy's going to be tired. The person can't put full effort into their sport. So I think we're on the same wavelength, but you have to have
different
administrators. Yeah, you have to have the administrators putting the money and saying, guys, you know what you're doing. Here it is. Go do your thing, and come back after 4 years and win us medals.
No, agree with you. All right, we need to wrap it up real quick. Let's talk about the whole CVD story real quick and wrap it up there.
Before you get to that, I just want to throw in my last comment about this issue. If you look at the US system of sports, the whole different federations, they graduate from college sports, and they feed into the main federations. So why don't we maybe look towards that? Because already we have a very thriving varsity sports situation in South Africa. Why don't we also maybe look at the US, how they're doing it? Because the US are like number 2 in the medals table. Why don't we look at that? Look at how we get excited with varsity sports. Maybe because I was also part of that I saw it happening. The sponsors are there. There's money there. So, Nobile, what do you think in terms of that?
Yeah, I think that could be a way to do it, but you also need to. I think the reason why these other countries are successful is also because they ensure that because you'll never get varsity sports without grassroots sports, primary school sports. So you need to make sure that at the very bottom, every school, every primary school, and so on, kids are playing. High school kids are playing, so that you at least have a pool of people to choose from. I always go back to the Danone Nations Cup thing versus the Baker's Mini Cricket. Baker's Mini Cricket is still running now. It was a privately funded thing. It's still running now. Under, I think, KFC Mini Cricket.
Yeah.
Where did the football ones go? Disappeared. Let's not even talk about things like skateboarding and gymnastics and so on and so on. So yes, I agree. I think that, we need to start having collegiate and high school sports and everywhere though, for every sport, and just allow kids to play. Because when the kids are playing and you can see the talent, then it's easier for sponsors to come in and say, okay, fine, we'll sponsor this one.
But again, I think you need to export those players, take them to the United States, go to participate there. I think the likes of Patricia Zomasongani mentioned this, that he had to move to USA so that he can understand the real depth of track and field. So I think exporting a lot of younger players, younger athletes to the USA to participate that side will be a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I was talking earlier about nurturing the seed. You have to expose it to harsh conditions, and harsh conditions don't exist here. So that's why you have to go and play friendlies and go and base them in other countries and so on and so on.
All right. Jackie?
Yes.
You hear?
Okay, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
I lost you guys there.
Let's continue with the theme of the Olympics. So today's quiz is with regards to Olympics. So Nobile, you have to choose between Moao, Wena, and then this is how it's gonna work. I'm gonna ask you guys 5 questions, and then the first person to call his name is gonna answer.
So I have to choose between whom?
You have to choose between Moao, Una, and TY.
I don't know. Whatever. Let's go Mohau.
Yes!
Our reigning champion. Okay, no. No. Okay. Okay. The first question. Which country has won the most Olympic medals?
Mobile.
Mohau.
Mobile?
China.
No, that's incorrect.
Mohau. USA.
Yes, that's correct. So Mau, you
Nice
leave.
one, Mau.
Second question. Second question. Name at least 2 new sports that have been introduced in this year's Olympics.
Mobile.
Yes.
Skateboarding and rock climbing.
That's correct. So it's 1-1. Third question. Which city will host the next Olympics?
Mobile. Paris.
Oh.
Correct. Oh, come on, bro.
Do it for the podcast, Mao.
Number 4. Which city has hosted 3 Olympic Games?
Mobile.
Yes.
That would be LA. Crap. What's that American country? Sorry. Atlanta.
That's incorrect. Mau?
Rio.
That's incorrect, guys. I'm giving you guys one more chance. 3 Olympics. Hosted in 1908, 1948.
Tokyo. Tokyo's hosted a Winter Olympics and 2 Summer Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. At least the last one is finished. At least the last. This is very easy. What 5 rings on the Olympic flag represent?
Should I give you this one?
Okay, yeah, it's fine. What do they represent, ne? What the colors?
Yeah.
The rings.
Yeah, the rings, yeah.
I think is it the parts of the world new.
You are there, but there's a specific that we're looking for. What part of the world? What do they represent? You are there, but there's a specific that I'm looking for. This is easy.
I think give it to him. Answer, bro.
The Olympic rings represent the 5 continents.
Correct. Wow. Mobile just literally beat you for one. So this is what we're going to expect on Sunday when Pirates win.
Pushing me.
No, I think Chiefs will probably win that one. They've got more to lose.
I don't like your energy. You've given up. The game is not even started, Chief.
Hey, now I'm a realist. That's the thing. I just look at the numbers and I think no, that doesn't balance.
All right, gents, I think we need to wrap it up now. Mahal had him. Good luck next time. Better luck next time.
Can we jump next time? Okay.
All right. Mobile, thank you very much for joining us, man. Closing words from you?
Nah, no stress, man. It's a pleasure to join you guys. I enjoyed the podcast. Thank you so much for having me. And good luck with the platform. May it continue to grow and grow. I like the platform. I like the idea. And it's a good one.
Thanks a lot, man. Don't forget to go follow him on Twitter. It's Cash and Sport. Facebook, it's Cash and Sport. Not and, it's an N. The website is cashandsport.com. On Spotify, it's also Cash, capital N, Sport. And if you can follow him on Twitter, go check out his pinned tweet. You single people, that are motivated. Something. Mohau, closing words from you?
Yeah, all the best to Team SA. And Tatiana Skumak, hope she breaks that record again, the 200 meters. And yeah, looking forward to the track and field.
Sweet stuff. Una?
All the best to Team SA, like Mau said, and Pirates Jiwa, so yeah, that's good. So
Jake, are you hearing this?
Yeah, I'm hearing it. You know, ever since Vasanile Jolene, they think they've made it. But anyway, sorry for another day. Yeah, my golden words. Big shout out to everybody that's been supporting us. We've been doing very, very well the last couple of weeks, particularly the last episode. Thank you to everybody that has been supporting us. We really appreciate it. And good luck to the Team SA tomorrow. I know that everybody will be watching Tatiana. I hope she finally gets a gold medal for us because we're asking for a gold medal. And good luck to the Buccaneers. The only time I support them is around this time. We need the country to be at peace over the weekend.
Our brothers in Star.
Our brother in Star.
You deserve each other's. You deserve each other.
All right. Thank you very much for tuning in. We absolutely appreciate the support. The podcast is growing rapidly. Absolutely appreciate you. Don't forget to send us your comments on the WhatsApp line 064-9000947. That's 064-9000947. And please go like, follow, and subscribe to the Banter Club SA across all platforms. It is the Banter Club SA. And to CBD Light, hey, good luck. Love and light to you and yours. Peace.
Can someone call for the super spreader by Chlorcorp? Tell your grandmother.
Subscribe on all our podcast platforms and YouTube at the Banter Club SA.
Join us every week on the Banter Club.